Hi, my name is ERushing, and I will be discussing with you today my practicum project, which is an education guide on understanding diabetes. This project breaks down into 4 parts, which I will be reviewing. They include the front and back of a one-page education guide and a pre- and post-intervention survey. Diabetes is a chronic condition and one that is rapidly gaining momentum as our population ages. In fact, 1 out of 3 people in this country is at risk of developing diabetes at some point in their lives. So the need for education is essential. Because each person is different, education is now tailored to the individual's situation to empower them with the skills they need and the confidence to self-manage. However, while diabetes can become overwhelming and lead to potential diabetes distress, the importance of keeping things simple and to the point makes all the difference with self-motivation and behavioral change. For my project, I chose to create a diabetes education guide to be used by my preceptor's team of diabetes educators, which includes nurses and registered dietitians. Because their patients receive so much information during individual and class sessions, they discuss the need for something more user-friendly and easier to remember. I discussed this with my preceptor, and we both agreed that a one-page education guide covering the most important topics for a patient to know would fulfill the requirements of user-friendly and easy to remember. At the beginning of this project, I met with my preceptor and we discussed the need for a simple yet thorough guide on diabetes that any patient could look at and remember. I envisioned a handout that could easily be placed in the home where a patient could see it on a daily basis, such as the refrigerator or the bathroom mirror, and be reminded of what they needed to do that day. My preceptor agreed and gave me the education handouts her team of diabetes educators give to their patients for me to review as I consider the topics that needed to be on my guide. I also enlisted input from my own work team, which included a social worker, pharmacist, transitional care nurse, and primary care provider. They all work with patients with diabetes, so I asked them to share with me what they felt was most important for these patients to know based on their specialty field and experience. While I received a fair amount of valuable input from both my preceptor and her team and my work team that I wished could be included on my one page, I managed to narrow the topics down to several common denominators that they all shared. For the first page, those topics included the following: what diabetes is, balancing a healthy meal, monitoring blood sugar, and understanding the goals, recognizing hypoglycemia and how to treat it, especially when skipping meals or double dosing on diabetes medications, and activity recommendations. On this first page, there is a lot of helpful and basic information to get the patient started. The images were deliberately created to be simple and catch the patient's eye so that they would read it quickly and know what to focus on with their diabetes. On the second page, the topics include medications, losing weight, getting started, tips for healthy living, and resources. Again, the images were kept simple with non-judgmental wording so that patients would not feel overwhelmed but encouraged to try something different in their routine that would help improve their diabetes. Once I completed the first draft of this handout, my preceptor reviewed it and made recommendations. After I reviewed her recommendations and agreed with them, I made those changes and she sent the second draft to her team. After her team of educators reviewed it, the dietitians had several helpful recommendations that would improve the sections on balancing meals, losing weight, getting started, and tips for healthy living. I followed those recommendations and made the necessary changes, and I felt very proud of my third draft. However, I had one more meeting with our team of pharmacists because they also wanted to provide input on my project to ensure that the medication section was appropriate. After reviewing my third draft, they too provided several helpful recommendations under medications, what diabetes is, blood sugar monitoring, and hypoglycemia. I was very grateful for their input and made the necessary adjustments. I submitted my fourth draft to my preceptor and she approved it with a few more last-minute recommendations under blood sugaring monitoring goals and hypoglycemia. I added those changes and completed my fifth and final draft. What you see on this slide is my final and completed project. During my in-person and online meetings with my preceptor, we reviewed the need for a pre-intervention survey for the patients before they received the Diabetes Education Guide. I added a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 meaning excellent, 4 meaning good, 3 meaning adequate, 2 meaning fair, and 1 meaning poor for the patient to rate their confidence. There are 5 questions addressing how they would rate the following: managing their diabetes, balancing meals, incorporating activity, knowing their blood sugar goals, and recognizing hypoglycemia. My preceptor's input on my first draft of this survey was instrumental, since I initially rated the patient's satisfaction instead of their confidence. Because the post-intervention survey rated confidence, she explained that it would be more cohesive to rate confidence in both surveys, since satisfaction relates to a service being given to an individual. Collecting this information will be helpful in determining the gaps in the patient's knowledge, not a service being provided. In the post-intervention survey, I initially addressed the patient's confidence with yes or no questions. For example, I asked, "Do you feel confident managing your diabetes?" Again, my preceptor encouraged consistency and suggested ranking their confidence on a scale instead of asking yes or no questions. In this way, it was clear what was being measured. She also recommended adding 2 clinically based questions to ensure that the patient understood what was being taught, and a comment section to encourage feedback on the handout. My final draft is completed. In conclusion, my project, which includes my diabetes education guide and the pre and post intervention surveys, is complete and ready to implement. Creating and developing this project in collaboration with my preceptor and other healthcare professionals has been an incredible experience. It has surpassed my expectations and provided me with the confidence and experience I need to be a master's prepared nurse in the workforce who can advocate, lead, and make a difference. Thank you.